WHBC.
The Kenny and JT Show is brought to you by Rooster's Wings and More. Be fun. Be casual.
The opinions expressed by Kenny and JT are not necessarily those of management, the station, or anyone with common sense. Listener discretion is advised.
So here we go.
These guys have a lot to say, and they never stop talking.
If I'm here and you're here, doesn't that make it our time?
Sky's the limit and space is the place.
Ooh, yeah. Live from News Talk 1480 WHBC.
It's a household name.
You understand me?
It's Kenny and JT.
Have a great show!
We intend to do just that. We're coming to you live in the corner 6 of Market, beautiful downtown Canton, Ohio. 78 degrees right now in this beautiful Hall of Fame city. And just as Chase DeLauder was a last-minute scratch before the Guardians game yesterday, so is Kenny Rhoda today. You've got me, JT, for 4 full hours, and I will come to your emotional rescue because I know the topic on everyone's mind is still Deshaun Watson. Did we let it sink in? He is going to be your day one starter, but if you read between the lines and you listen to everything that Todd Monken said yesterday, just because he's going to be the day one starter doesn't mean he would be the starter the entire year. Now, a lot of people consider the fact that the dude might be injury prone anyway, but we're not considering that, and we would never wish ill will or an injury on a person. At least I don't think so. That's the reason I'm here for your emotional support today. Because a lot of people are very upset about this. I talked to friends of mine in Cleveland that just won't let this thing go. And dudes and dudettes, we're still in the preseason. And here are the Cleveland Browns making headlines throughout the country. And they're calling people like myself and Kenny, and we're doing hits all over the country. And what do you people think? Well, the problem has got to be this that I've seen so far. In the 24 hours or so since they made Deshaun Watson the starting quarterback of the Cleveland Browns this season, can't see anything positive. I haven't heard a positive thing said anywhere. Not on the networks, not on the streaming services. But the thing is, anyone who's ever coached the game, anybody that knows the game, I mean, you have to remember that a lot of times the talking heads have never laced up a pair of shoulder pads. And yes, they used to tie in the middle. That's old school. But a lot of these people never play the game. They don't understand the game. They don't understand the nuances of the game of football, reading defenses, calling the plays properly. And apparently, if you really listen to what Todd Monken had to say yesterday, it's one of the downfalls of Shedeur Sanders. Now, you look at it and say, okay, if that's truly a quarterback competition, and they were pretty much even going into the preseason, why wouldn't you just go ahead and give it to the younger guy? That's a good question. But when you're a first-year head coach, your first time out of the gate with an NFL franchise, you want to put your best foot forward. You want to give yourself the best chance to win, and that's what Todd Monken said. He believes that the experience of Deshaun Watson, good or bad, a lot of it's been bad, let's face it, gives him an edge starting and giving the Browns a better opportunity to win ball games. Doesn't mean I agree with that. But what it does mean is this. Not really sure you've got anyone really capable of winning a lot of football games as your starting quarterback. But let's think of it in terms of this. You can't let the fans dictate what you're going to do on the field. That includes your lineup. That includes the 53-man roster when that gets dwindled down, I believe, at the end of the week on the 30th. But the problem has got to be this. You consider the Cleveland Browns, and we're not going to beat this to death today, but I know it's still on a lot of people's minds, and we want to hear from you at 330-450-1480. In fact, should we be upset about this, or should we think a little bit more clearly about the situation and really decide that Deshaun Watson gives you your best opportunity to win ball games? Don't know. I don't know if that's the case, but we do know a lot of people and a lot of fans are still upset about it. In fact, today at Brown Stadium in Cleveland, there were signs this morning on the Jim Brown statue. Okay, that's taking things a little bit too far. You know, when you start taking the opportunity and taking the time to make signs and banners and everything else. And I understand fan is short for fanatic. Are you going to really turn in your fan card and stop rooting for this team? Crazier things have happened. What if this team goes on the road and wins the first 2 games? You going to accept the guy as your starter? Or are you going to go back and say, well, wait a minute. This is a marketing nightmare. Think in terms of your business. If this were any other business, and I said this yesterday, any other business other than the National Football League, and you made these kind of decisions going back to 2022 when you traded for this guy that ends up being a flop anyway, but they didn't know it back then, you'd be out of business. But this is the NFL, and the NFL pays these franchises. And we're talking about billionaires paying millionaires. So I don't want to talk about contracts. I don't want to talk about money, because at the end of the day, this owner is not going to be hurt in the billfold, in my opinion. Now, people say, well, wait a minute. Fans got to speak up. If you're really against this, boycott these games. You can't do it. It's not going to happen. Guess what? They're still going to make the television contracts regardless. And they're still going to be televised because you don't have anyone else that they would put in your market. Sorry, Steeler fans. If you want to watch Pittsburgh, you either got to buy the NFL ticket or get one of those boxes or stream it, whichever way they do it. You are stuck with watching the Cleveland Browns on a Sunday afternoon. If they both play at 1 o'clock, you're screwed. So think in terms of marketing. What did we find out last year? How are you going to make money? If you're the owner of this team, you got a couple of different ways. A, the television contracts. B, you're going to sell paraphernalia. Everybody wants Browns merchandise. It just goes, it doesn't matter what the name of the team is. People buy Guardians outfits. They don't care. It's the franchise. It's the logo. That's what people want. Doesn't matter what the name of the team is. I don't care. If you don't like the name of the Guardians, when they came out with their City Connect uniforms or whatever it's called, people loved it. Who cares? Win games. It's all that matters. And is that all that matters with the Cleveland Browns? We'll all be forgiven if this guy wins, but I want to go back to marketing. I want to go back to, how does an NFL team make money? Marketing. Shedeur Sanders last season, as a rookie, had the number 1 selling jersey in the National Football League. He was number 5 overall. And he changed numbers. This only happens in Cleveland. This is OIC. Only in Cleveland would you have a guy with a top selling jersey only to have him switch numbers. Goes from 12 to 2. Tip of the iceberg stuff right there. So if you're thinking in terms of marketing, you still have to sell tickets. And then on the back of our minds, because we do this for a living in sports talk radio, they want to build a new stadium. And when they build that new stadium, it's going to be not unlike when they built the last one, when we were all introduced to the term and the words PSL, personal seat licenses. The hell's that mean? Okay, I'm going to buy a ticket to a game. I got to reserve it first. There's a seat license. I have a license to drive my car. When I was a kid, I had a license on my bike. My bike got stolen. They'd find a license, and they'd know it was mine. Never got returned, by the way, either. A personal seat license. You have any idea what that's going to cost in $1 billion stadium? I don't, and I won't, because I'm not buying. What say you? 330-450-1480. How do you feel about this? You've had a day to let this sink in. And if this were any other business other than the NFL, you might be out of business. Close the doors. We've seen worse happen. I need somebody to make an argument for this dude. As a fan, I can't believe a team wants to put together a good product when they do stuff like this. And it's a marketing nightmare. So I said it yesterday, we want to disconnect the emotional element. But is Deshaun Watson a bad person? Okay. We don't know what went on behind closed doors. We know that he wasn't really charged with any crimes. Or if he was charged, he wasn't indicted, whichever way that goes down legally, I don't understand it. I'm not a lawyer. All I know is he was not found guilty of any crimes. Crimes of humanity, maybe? Who knows? It's not for me to judge. That's for someone else. And the judges in the Texas law firms, or whatever you want to call it, and court systems, they didn't either. But is he a bad guy? These are the questions we don't know. You would imagine a guy that's making $230 million just for tax purposes alone has to give back to charity. I looked this up, and this is nowhere near a deep dive, as Kenny Rhoda would say. But when you just Google, there's no telling whether or not this is real or not, but we have to throw it out there anyway. According to a post on Facebook, not a huge reliable source for news, by the way, but I read it anyway. Questions are being raised about Deshaun Watson's foundation, finances, and what he's been giving to the charities that he supposedly represents. You can do what you want with that. You can look it up. You can Google it on your own. Is he a good person? So this goes back to vetting a person. So when the Browns decided to make a trade for a dude back in 2022, you would think you would take somebody's character into account. We told you yesterday in the 2021 season, after 3 years in a row of playing Pro Bowl caliber football, in the last year that he was really good. He threw for over 4,000 yards and 30-some touchdown passes. He was untouchable. Looked really good. But the following year, the allegations start to come out. Next thing you know, they trade his top receiver. And watching from the outside looking in, not ever thinking in my wildest imaginations that he would be a member of the Cleveland Browns, a once storied franchise. Would this dude be your starting quarterback? But they made the deal and somehow made it work. The trade, that is. Did they look long and hard enough into the background of this dude? Or are they, the Browns, just being the Browns? I mean, let's face it. This is the same organization that told you Johnny Football was the future of the franchise. And I don't care who's making the decisions. This was now Andrew Berry. It wasn't the former regime. And just they stumble over themselves continuously. So it's got to go back to ownership because the owner was the same. Made both those bad decisions. The Athletic polled 50 executives and coaches and ranked 35 veteran quarterbacks. 35. Deshaun Watson got an incomplete, but he ranked one of the bottom tiers at number 31. But guess what? Shedeur Sanders, you guessed it, came in at number 35. So as I said yesterday, both quarterbacks aren't really that good. So does one give you a better chance to win? Well, if you're the head coach, you better hope so. But doesn't he get a pass for this lousy product? And let's face it, when you do one thing, it takes the focus off another thing. So what they did was they told you during the entire training camp that we've got a quarterback battle on our hands. All the while trying to piece together an offensive line that really doesn't have a chance, in my opinion. The best thing about the offensive line, well, two things. They drafted a starting left tackle, and they have a guy that we think would be a good offensive line coach in George Warhop. But the problem with offensive linemen is, and you can look into this as well, teams don't release their offensive linemen to free agency. They normally re-sign them. So what did the Browns do? They picked up 3 other offensive linemen through free agency that someone probably didn't want. Not saying you overpaid for them. Not saying it's better than last year. We thought, it's addition by subtraction. Maybe it's not. We're going to find out how good Jack Conklin, even if he was injured, would be. Because you've added, basically, other cast-offs to this offensive line that I don't believe is going to be that good. If this team can't run the football, doesn't matter if Tom Brady's your quarterback. If this offensive line can't protect the quarterback, doesn't matter. I don't know why I keep using this. Doesn't matter if Roger Staubach's your quarterback. Not that he's the second best quarterback. Okay, Joe Montana, I'll say. But for whatever reason, Roger Staubach is just stuck in my mind for some reason. I don't know. Brian, who's the Hall of Famer we have in studio this week?
Roger Worley.
Roger Worley was a defensive back for the St. Louis Cardinals. Oh, this is why. Roger Staubach said that Worley was the best secondary, best cornerback he'd ever played against. That's why. See? That's how my mind works. So there is some good news with the Browns too, by the way, before we move on. Malik Collins returned to practice. So you get another defensive lineman. And by the way, since I'm talking about defensive linemen, and I mentioned the offensive lineman, I'm going to go back to the drafting of Mason Graham last year. Good ball player. Fine. That's okay. Fine. Good. When's the last time anybody other than Aaron Donald, who was a great defensive tackle, won anything in the NFL? If you're the Cleveland Browns and you wanted to get better, last year when you traded back from number 2 to number 4 or 5, whatever it was, and you took the defensive lineman from Michigan, maybe you should have started in on the offensive line then, because you didn't believe that you had anybody there worthy of taking as a franchise quarterback last year. You should have started on the offensive line then. Not the sexy pick, I get it. Neither is a defensive tackle, I'm sorry. He had a good rookie season. Everybody will tell you the metrics weren't great. The statistics really weren't that good. But the only person that hasn't said that is Myles Garrett. And maybe Myles Garrett would give the defensive tackle more credit for the success that he had in breaking the sack record. Last thing I'm going to say about that right there. Keep the faith if you can. I think it's going to be a long season. I could be wrong. I do like what I hear from the coaching staff. Don't know if you have the talent. Said it before. Said it again. You're paying players. Are you paying the wrong ones? College football kicks off this weekend. Couple of games on Saturday, including San Jose State at USC. Get your full share of college football, because if you're a huge football fan, it starts this weekend. Couple of games Saturday. USC is a 38.5-point favorite, I think. Good luck with that. Buckeyes kick off 1 week from Saturday. Thank God for the Ohio State Buckeyes. We'll hear from head coach Ryan Day a little bit later on in the program. So how about some good news? We all want a little good news. Give me a little Nate Lowe music there, Brian. Yeah. Turn that up. I got to feel better. Got my blood pressure worked up talking Browns football to start the program. Not wasting 4 hours of that crap again. Come on, Nate Lowe, Joe Adele. The best trade deadline moves this franchise has made, maybe in my lifetime. All due respect to pitcher they got when they went to the World Series and lost. Guardians have won 5 straight. 6 of their last 7. 7 of their last 10. They're finally 500 at 66-66, and ready for this? They're back into the 3rd spot in the wild card race because Texas overcame Houston. How about that? Guardians on a roll. I'm loving it, man. But did you realize there's only 6 teams in the American League at 500 or better? Guardians beat the Angels last night behind MVP candidate Austin Hedges.
The pitch, and that's swung on and lifted high in the air. Deep right center field, way back there. The outfielders look up, but this ball is gone. A home run. Austin Hedges. And the Guardians pad their lead. It is now 4-1 Cleveland as Hedges goes oppo for the home run.
Amen. And then he dropped an F-bomb into the dugout. You see it? It's hysterical. They love this guy, man. I mean, he's a leader in the clubhouse. He's got 5 home runs. When in your wildest imaginations did you think that Austin Hedges would hit more home runs than Stephen Kwan? Well, he has. He's got 5 so far. Seriously, though, this Joe Adele is a beast. Another hit, another RBI last night. Gives him something like 18 RBI in 18 games as a member of the Guardians. That is a good move. And if Jose ever gets going, who knows what this team could do? I still believe, though, even though they're locking down the 3rd wild card spot today, they've got a better chance of catching the White Sox. You better take care of the division. 2 more with the Angels. If you can stay up late tonight, 9:38, Gavin Williams on the mound. And then tomorrow, an afternoon game, which, Brian, does that mean there's no Kenny and JT show tomorrow? Half an hour, I'm not coming in. If Kenny took off today, I'm not coming tomorrow.
What am I supposed to do?
30 minutes, you host the show. Talk about Deshaun Watson.
I'll bring in Munch.
Munch. Finally, we have some sad news to report today, as we just found out minutes before we went on the air, the passing of Dolly Parton. Dolly Parton passes away at the age of 80. Best-selling female country music artist of all time. She sold more than 160 million albums worldwide. I had no idea.
Jolene, Jolene, Jolene.
Member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, she gets inducted back in 2022. Listen to this class. By the way, I would have thought Shania Twain would have been the highest-selling female artist of all time. 2022 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees: Carly Simon, Duran Duran, Eminem, The Eurythmics, Lionel Richie, Pat Benatar, her husband Neil Giraldo, and Dolly Parton.
You walked right in the door, just like you've done before.
I'd heard that she was suffering from some illnesses recently. She had to cancel some events, over the last couple of months. I saw something on TV too. What's the name of her amusement park? Dolly World? Dollywood. There was a dude on one of the morning shows last week that was doing some of their food items that they have there. Looks fantastic. Dolly World, I think I called it. Oh, this one always makes me cry, Paul. How about a 2023 Thanksgiving halftime show at the Dallas Cowboys game?
It's your turn. Come on, champions. Let's go.
That's 3 years ago. So at 77, they dressed her up like a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. She sang this at halftime. Again, Dolly Parton, at the age of 80, passes away. Godspeed, Dolly Parton. Get a break in. I want to take your phone calls at 330-450-1480. More of the Kenny and JT show on, what is today? Tuesday? It's only a Tuesday? We're this worked up over the Browns on a Tuesday after 2 weeks in the preseason? Ay, ay, ay.
Your beauty is beyond compare with flaming.
It's Kenny and JT on WHBC.
And I